Doctors, what was the best excuse you've heard for someone having something stuck in their butt? Had a guy with a screwdriver up there, handle first. He was honest. Said the wife wanted to try something new. Why the screwdriver? Something shaped like a dong would have been gay. I always thought that was a real weird place to draw that line. I guess you could say he got screwed. I've got this one. Not a doctor but Tridge. Guy comes in, walking, kinda awkwardly, doesn't take a seat. When it's his turn, he's called up to Tridge and again, refuses to sit. What brings you in today? I said. I've lost a glass, you know, like a tumbler. Shuffles. Okay, so, why are you here? Well, we had a party that got out of hand last night. I was cleaning the house this morning and I noticed one of my drinks glasses was missing. And I think it might be up my butt. That's it as far as explanation. But sure enough, there it was on x-ray. Rim side first. So after it disappeared up his butthole, it basically filled itself with crap. Now, anytime people that know the story ask if I've seen something they've lost, I ask if they've checked their butthole. My friend is a nurse. She told me about a guy who came into her. He claimed to have fallen out of a tree and a branch went right up his butt. They x-rayed him and he had this perfectly round wooden rod up his butt. When they removed it they saw that it was sanded, painted and primed. That branch must have come from a genetically modified species of tree lol. Crazy how the human body do that. My mom was a nurse and always remembered the guy whose wife was out of town so he was cooking naked and slipped and fell on a potato. I am a nurse, a male as well. Guy came to my hospital with a cue ball stuck in his rectum. Said him and his wife were having sex and this happened. Made no excuses and showed no shame. A doc was unable to remove it with forceps and he had to get anesthesia to have a minor surgical procedure to get it out. My job was basically to just go through a pre-surgical checklist and send him on his way. When I'm done he shouts excitedly, "Alright, let's get this ball rolling." I almost died laughing. It was near the end of my shift and I always wonder what happened to him. I'm sure he did fine and is back to having amazing kinky sex with his wife. Alright, let's get this ball rolling. This guy has hero material. Had this elderly guy come in with a cucumber up there. First month of residency. So my attending asks, "Why did you put that up there?" Guy, dead's normal. Says, "Well, it was just like every Tuesday. I woke up, made some coffee, and sat on a cucumber." Stifling laughter, my attending just said, "So you shouldn't do that anymore." He says okay, we removed it and never saw him again. Guy told me he was constipated so he stuck the broom handle up there to break up the poop. I almost believed him. Edit. It was half of a broom handle, cut off and wrapped in electrical tape, all the way inside his butt. I'd believe that. People are stupid. A college friend who is an or nurse said the best thing she ever witnessed was a small snow globe with the message "World's Greatest Dad" on the inside. Saw someone with a remote control stuck way up in their colon. She said she was getting herself ready for anal sex with her boyfriend and then it got stuck. The kicker was that she showed up to the hospital with her boyfriend and her husband in tow. I am really curious as to how that conversation went. My ex is a nurse. One night she sent me a pic of her computer of what she was working on. 16-year-old male brought in by his mother, shoved a sausage up his butt and lost it. Imagine the embarrassment of telling mom, "Hey mom, I lost a sausage in my butt. Can you take me to the freaking kids?" Paramedic. Here. Had one guy tell me he slipped on a banana peel and landed on the upright vase on the floor. He then proceeded to produce a banana peel for good measure. The fact that he genuinely had a banana peel made me laugh more than the entirety of this thread. Not in butt, but a vagina. I was doing my clinical rotation in 3rd year. Did a cervical assessment on 36W pregnant woman who thought she was in labor, painful cramping, plus discharge. I found 8 cloves of garlic. She thought she could avoid group B strep with it. She read it online. She thought they would dissolve. 1. You can't avoid GBS like this. 2. They turn to slimmer mush bulbs. They don't dissolve. She was not in labor. She was responding to an infection. A nasty one. She was admitted for fluids, object removal, meds, and monitoring of fetus for treatment overnight. I finished my 24/8 shift before the next op wrapped up. Cramping stopped very soon after we got it all out. Last I saw her she was just feeling sad and dumb. I felt really awful for her. She was trying to do the right thing for her pregnancy. GBS. Gut bacteria found in 1/3 of adults at any time. Some cow tries screen for its presence because in rare cases it does nasty things to baby if they get colonized at birth. I had a patient who was trying to treat bacterial vaginosis with garlic cloves. You have a special knowledge of how thankful I was she'd made a little cheesecloth pouch for it first. All came out in one gloriously funky chunk. Garbage had to go out immediately. Guy came in with a cordless phone up his butt, like one of the old school ones from 15 years ago. He said that when he was in the kitchen bending over opening the oven door, someone threw it through his open window and it just went right up. When I was a student working in a guy came in with an unraveled wire hanger stuck and hooked up there. He said he was trying to fish out the vibrator he lost. It always boils down to the person accidentally sat on it. The best my dad saw, a former emergency doctor, was a young guy who accidentally sat on a giant tub of Vaseline. Accidentally. I asked how doctors record that in their patient files, and the common way to do so is to say the patient claims to have sat on X object. There was a news story in my country. A man went to the ER and they discovered that he drunkenly put 2 hammerheads in his butt. His reasoning being that he ate a jar of preserved cherries with pits and then had abdominal pain and wanted to smash the pits. Took me a few seconds to realize you didn't mean tiny sharks. Related. Guy puts a vibrator, one of the massive cordless wand types, wire up there, like a mega seed, and it gets sucked into the sigmoid colon. When he gets to me in the ear I ask him how he was feeling. He answered, "Well doc, I'm way better since the batteries died. Made my night. I've been trying to entertain the medical staff since my open heart surgery. Was having problems with low blood pressure. It hit 90/58. I got the ringing in my ears. Everything went red, and I passed out. Oh no. Yeah, but my carpet smells fantastic." A nurse. I tried to dig something out of my butt with a barbecue skewer. Skewer got stuck. Ripped a hole in his intestines. He waited so long to come in he was septic. One stat or visit and then I could stay later. Please don't call my mom. Guy was tripping hard on LSD. I stuck it up there on purpose and now it's stuck. Please help. It was a perfectly honest and valid reason for have something stuck up your butt, and we helped. No further questions needed. Now I'm interested how often that happens. I mean the honest answer. Not an excuse but a medic told me that they have contests about what is the most unexpected thing they pulled out of butts. The winner was a guy that put an electric Christmas decoration, the ones you wrap around the tree. In her own words the legend doesn't say whether he plugged it or not. I should have asked what the excuse was for that one. So I actually once did fall naked in my bedroom and my butt cheek smashed hard onto the end of a small dumbbell that was angles up at 45 degrees. I'm coming to realize after reading all of this that had it hit the bullseye, no one would have freaking believed me. My cousin who is a doctor once told me that when you really do fall on something and it goes up there it's not pretty. There is tearing and overall injury. When there is no injury where it went in you know it was likely eased in and that's how they know the I fell on it story is bulls. Presented at her in Sydney with carrot stuck in the ass. Doctor, what happened? Patient, I heard a noise in the garden. Went to investigate. Slipped and fell over. Carrot went up my bum. Doctor, carrots grow upside down out your way huh? Friend's mum was a nurse. A man came into her with a cucumber in his bum. Apparently he was vacuuming his fruit shop in the nude and slipped over. Worked on ambulances, not a doctor. Mostly bottles or vegetables. The aubergine was the biggest but potatoes and carrots seemed to be popular. Ketchup, mayo and glass cola bottles were common at one point. Also one butt plug and a toilet brush. The last two were honest and very distraught. Others all had naked gardening stories. There's an even worse question you haven't asked which is for things people have shoved up their urethras. Only men in my experience. My brother was a trig nurse and examined someone that came in with a Barbie doll up their ass. Don't know if they were male or female though. There was a guy who would often come to my friends for Barbie head removals. He had several Barbies he kept in his jacket, held in place by loopholes he had sewn in. They always knew how many heads to look for by how many heads were missing from the Barbies in his coat. My sister is a surgical nurse and a guy came into the hospital with a pool noodle shoved up his butt. It was so deep that they had to cut open his abdomen, intestines and colon to cut the foam out of him. He said he fell on it while swimming nude. But when they cut him open it had a condom stretched over the end of it. When they confronted him he said, "Please don't tell me, wife." At least he was practicing safe sex. The best one I've heard is a priest who had peeled a potato and left it on the side for his dinner. He decided to hang the curtains back up while nude and fell off the stepladder onto it. It was in the UK paper years ago. If I find it I'll post the source. What I love is that some poor bloke, just one, did fall on something naked and no one is going to believe him. I went to med school in the deep south. Burly, middle-aged southern gentleman showed up in the ED. Chief complaint: rectal pain. After a full history and physical examination couldn't ascertain the case of his pain other than him saying feels like something's up there. We decided to start with some x-rays. Before we obtained them, he says, "Alright, I'm gonna be square with you. I was walking down the street, minding my own business, when these thugs jumped me out of nowhere and held me down and stuck a cucumber up my butt. Please, you got to get it out." I immediately went to get my attending, one surgical consultant GI. Consult later. A cucumber wrapped in a condom was extracted from this man's rectum. I was walking down the street, minding my own business, when these thugs jumped me out of nowhere and held me down and stuck a cucumber up my butt. SMH, look how far America has fallen. We have gangs of thugs going around putting cucumbers in people's buttholes. Though I laughed so hard at this comment. Friend is a stomach surgeon, so always gets called in to pull things out of asses. He has loads of stories, but the one I remember is a guy who had a glass ketchup bottle up his ass. He'd claimed to have returned home with his grocery shopping, realized he'd lost his keys, so put shopping down and attempted to climb through a high window. He slipped, fell backwards ass first onto his groceries and SHLUM. The ketchup bottle just shot up his a-hole. Ignore that guy was presumably not naked at the time. After removing it at the hospital, my doctor friend said that's strange. The ketchup you bought is only half full. I think the worst thing is that it suggests he was gonna eat the rest of it another time. A light bulb. You could always tell when someone came into the OR with something lodged in their rectum because everyone would be standing around looking at the x-ray. It was still in perfect light bulb shape. I have no idea how the patient got it up there without breaking it. I'll tell you what there, Bobo. Either the kid's got a light bulb up his butt, or his colon's got a great idea. Dr. Cox had a patient who showed up with his soon-to-be ex-wife. They were reconciling at a nearby motel. She convinced him that if he loved her, he would let her put a dildo in his butt. Only it wasn't a dildo. It was a vibrator without a flared base. Rule number 1 of anal play is make sure that it has a flared base. Rule number 2 is nothing sharp. The whole thing went up there and he couldn't get it out. I had to take it out under anesthesia. She felt awful and was crying the whole time. He was a very blow-collar, normal dude and she was dressed in very fancy clothes. An unlikely match in my mind. He was just happy that they were at my urban hospital and not the uppity town about 15 miles away where they lived. I often wonder what became of them and their marriage. I feel like nothing sharp should be rule number 1. Shudder. Trying to reduce prolapsed hemorrhoids he developed after a long, arduous poop doctor term. Of course, I wondered how a vegetable peeler was the most available object to be had in the bathroom. The vegetable peeler became stuck, as these things tend to do. However, this was the kind with slits in the plastic and his formerly prolapsed hemorrhoid tissue protruded into the slits, making it impossible to remove. Also cutting off blood supply, which made them necrotic by the time we went to the OR. What kills me is that his next move to try to remove this object from his anus was to try to cut it out with scissors. OMG. It was horrible. A jagged piece of plastic wedged in, horrifying and, indeed, quite memorable. And that's officially the worst thing I've ever heard of. My god. That's freaking horrifying. Not a doctor, but I don't know that I'll have a chance to share this again. Growing up there was an urban legend about a local bloke that had to have a butternut pumpkin, squash, removed from his ass. Fast forward 25 years and I'm reading the book written by my dad's liver specialist, and lo and behold, it wasn't a legend. In fact, an entire chapter was dedicated to gentlemen with foreign objects needing removal from arse and bladder. Just reading bladder made me cringe. I don't know how anyone can stick things up there. You asked for the best, but I have the worst, but possibly the most honest response I've gotten. I was an EMT and ran a call at a methadone clinic. She was a 28-year-old female who had possibly OD'd. When we got there, she was sitting on the ground completely naked. My captain asked what was up her butt, to which I responded quickly as trash bag, sir. For some reason there was a contractor bag jammed right up her anus. My captain ordered me to remove it and it felt like I was a magician pulling a bunch of napkins out of a dove. Or whatever magicians do. She looks at me without a word. Until I asked her why there was a trash bag up her butt, at which point she responded, we didn't have a condom. This was my second week on the job. It wasn't an excuse and it wasn't the butt. A young lady in Riverside TX, very heavy M presence, was dared to stick a live catfish in her vagina. She shoved it in head first. Those who know catfish know they have very sharp dorsal fins. Well, the dorsal fins lodged in the walls of her vagina and became stuck. She came into the ER screaming in pain with a live catfish flopping all willy-nilly out of her privates. I wish I still had a copy of that X-ray. Welp, my vagina has packed its bags and noped the frick out of this thread. I once had to take a guy to the OR to remove a cucumber from his rectum since it had migrated up further than could be extracted manually. I don't remember his excuse, but it had been in there for more than a week and when we took it out it had started to pickle. I am pickle shy. My grandmother used to be a nurse. Apparently back in the day, these kinds of stories were shared over fax. A hospital in network had a story about a patient's CC was abdominal distress. Radiograph reveal odd radiopacities in pairs about 3/4 of an inch apart. Docs counted 3-4 pairs, couldn't figure out what it was. Exploratory surgery resulted in 4 Barbie doll heads in the patient's large intestine. After the discovery, patient stated that he had a fetish. He swallowed Barbie heads because he liked the way the hair felt on the way out. The radiopacities were the doll eyes. Apparently they used to be metal in the paint or something. Top comment after reading facts. Barbies are expensive. Did he recycle? This is eerily similar to another comment on here involving Barbie heads. Jesus Christ, how many people just stick random crap up their butt? A whole lot of sexually frustrated kinky people caught up in the moment of getting their rocks off without actually considering the potential consequences resulting in having to go to the OR for extraction, is my guess. I heard a story, probably made up, that a bunch of guys were hanging out and getting stoned while camping, or somewhere outdoors, when one of their members went into diabetic shock. His buddies knew he was a diabetic and realized what was happening but had no idea what to do about it except to get him to a hospital. Not a bad choice. So, they all piled into a car to drive him to a hospital. This was before cell phones. On the way they were arguing what to do. They felt he needed sugar, whether right or wrong that is what they decided, and they argued over how you get sugar into an unconscious person. Supposedly the doctors found a Snickers bar, or whatever candy, shoved up his bum when they examined the patient. I will say, if true, he has really good friends. Dumb friends, but good. 20 years ago, an ex was a nurse. A guy came in with a magic mushroom air freshener stuck up in there. He was embarrassed and did not even attempt to explain it. She said that when the doctor got it out, he said, "Funny, it doesn't smell pine fresh," and everybody laughed. I am kind of surprised that didn't lead to lawsuit. Taking the doctor to court would have involved explaining to the judge what happened. Yes, Your Honor. After the doctor put his medical degree to use by getting elbow deep in me like Jim Henson working Kermit, he made a joke and it made me sad. RN here. Had a Jehovah's Witness gentleman admitted to IQ with his bowels perforated. States he had constipation so he decided he needed a cleaning. He happens to do pipe work so he hooked some pipes up to the hose then inserted the other end in his rectum to just give it the ol' swish and dump. Burst his colon from the pressure and all the hard pipe crammed up his butt. Unfortunate thing was he needed a blood transfusion, but oops. He is a Jehovah's Witness, so no go. I learned then that they actually send a group of people to the hospital to watch you and make sure you don't stray from your faith. I always wondered what he told them. I learned then that they actually send a group of people to the hospital to watch you and make sure you don't stray from your faith. Jesus Christ. Frick them so hard. I worked on a surgical ward for a while and we had a few strange items. I can't tell you what their excuse was because we saw them post-operatively. One guy stuck not one, not two, but 3 snooker balls up his bum. One guy stuck a clay pigeon up his bum. That one was pretty impressive. One guy, 92 years old, tried to fish out a vibrator with a coat hanger. And my personal favorite, a guy stuck an old Nokia 3310 up his bum. They x-rayed him and took him to theater. They kept trying to fish it out, but he kept getting phone calls from his mum wondering where he was. Every time she rang, the phone would vibrate further up his barrel. Remember how back in the day you could get those crappy $2 ringtones where it wouldn't sing the lyrics but it would buzz to the words and music? Guess what his ringtone was? Will Smith's Getting Jiggy With It. Thank you and good night. If I had a Nokia up my butt, the last place I'd want to go is the movies. A doc and a little late to the game here. I've lost count how many rectal foreign bodies I've removed. But there was this one kid, well, teenager. He got a AA battery stuck up his butt. Told his mom that he had been experiencing constipation and thought his butthole was just too small for the poop to get through. So he was trying to dilate it with a battery. Yeah, okay. The kicker was that his mom completely bought this story, and she's there telling me how this whole thing happened to her precious, innocent son. My mum worked in emergency for a long time back in the 80s, and this is her favorite story, but it was a vagina and not a butt. A woman had used one of those wide, shallow face cream tubs as a diaphragm. Predictably it became stuck while doing the deed and she presented at the hospital fully honest about what she'd done. Anyway, they managed to remove it and then she asked for the tub back because it still had face cream in it. Emergency medicine physician here. On the flip side, there is nothing more refreshing to us than when people come in and are completely honest. Patient, I like to put golf balls into my rectum sometimes and I can't remember if I put in 3 or 4 but I only got out 3. Me. Perfect. You have a problem that I can solve. Let me order an x-ray and see if there is one more that I need to remove for you. Sounds pretty much par for the course. This isn't exactly what you asked for, but a family friend is an endocrinologist and a surgeon. He has his fair share of oddities they have to remove. But what stands out to me is that he must have a few cases every year where the patient has no idea how the peanut butter got on their crotch or why the dog bit them. Way more common than it should be. I thought it was something out of the movies. The frequency of occurrence and confidence in lie always baffles me. True story, and not funny to this day. In high school, my best friend's twin sister got a frozen banana stuck in her butt. She was so mortified that she had her girlfriends attempt to remove it by squirting boiling water in her rectum with a squirt gun. Some of the material from the melted water gun was also found. She suffered burns so bad she was put on a special liquid diet and missed the final 2 months of school including graduation. Worst of all, it happened at spring break in Cancun. Her parents didn't truest the hospital, but due to the severity, rather than fly her home, the surgery was delayed a full 24 hours until her parents could travel down to supervise. A student on the yearbook committee was almost expelled because on the page on which a picture appeared, he replaced their second digit of the page number with a small banana. This happened in a very small high school in the early 90s, so I'm not afraid of someone recognizing the specificity of the story. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.